It's your intellect once again. I welcome you all at this platform as I teach advanced level history candidates how best they can prepare for their final exams. So this video is focusing on evaluations and analysis concerning the impetus of the Portuguese activities within the mute apostate and evaluating if they had managed to achieve their goals by 1693.
Extended the Portuguese goals in the Mtapa state between or I think the Mtapa state being realized by 1693 altogether. So where the question is, want you to evaluate how far the Portuguese achieved their goals in the Mtapa state. So you say the question demands candidates. The question demands candidates. The question demands candidates. The question demands candidates to explore how far the Portuguese have achieved their goals, have achieved their goals, have achieved their goals by 1693, within the Mtapa state, political, economical, and social. Political, economical, and social. Political, economical, and social. However, on the other hand, good candidates cannot forget to review that. Good candidates cannot forget to review that the Portuguese did not achieve their goals within the Mtapa state. The Portuguese did not achieve their goals within the Mtapa state. Ndofunga waita kuti hanji chakapenga chikwesheni ichi. Ndozvamene makundirigira kazvi makwesheni paneda kuti uya nechikwesheni chiri kunetsa nekuti rega tiende nepombi. Right. So we now want to evaluate how did the Portuguese have achieved their goals within the Mtapa state by 1693. So in your introduction, you are going to review that the Portuguese have penetrated within the Mtapa state and they've introduced what they call the Brazil system, and it was associated with the political, economic, and social activity. As they have introduced all these aspects, they managed to succeed their goal politically by installing puppet leaders, economically by instituting issues like forced labor, and socially they've introduced Christianity. However, one cannot forget that the Portuguese, to some extent, they failed to achieve their aims by failing to have full control of the Mtapa state or to colonize Zimbabwe in particular, or also nezvimwewo zvaunogona kungotaura. Then political, the Portuguese they've managed to install puppet leaders. Saka ndakati inzwa, in your explanation we need your point, we need your explanation that toda supportive evidence analysis. We need to introduce the PESA system. So iwewe ukatipa point, our point is the Portuguese within the Mtapa state they've installed puppet leaders. Hauna kana answer yawanyora ipapo. What these were kings that were installed by the Portuguese. So they were working on behalf of the Portuguese, or they were fulfilling the aims of the Portuguese within the Mtapa state. So these leaders are like the Gatsuru who was installed by them. So Taku Tato explained. Then Takuya according to HB Moyan, Tatotaura Gatsuru was one of my puppet leaders guys. So analysis here really fun. How can we say this goal was achieved? By so doing, the Portuguese, they've achieved their goal because they wanted to penetrate within the Mtapa politics such that they could do whatever they might do, and as long it satisfies their aims. So, by having my puppet leaders, vakakwanisa kuita zvese zvavaida within the Mtapa state. Furthermore, they introduced their own army, which was known as the Chifundas. This was the Portuguese army, which was used to terrorize the African people, especially those within the Mtapa state. And this gave the Portuguese access to anything on chavaida within the state because they've installed fear to the majority. Andika, on no analysis. Analysis dziri pakuti saka bhora ravo raivari kuita sei hazisi pakuexplaina zvakaitika. Andika, furthermore, economically they've introduced the prazeros. Iwe unozoita problem yekuda kuexplaina kuti hey, mapurazi mairimwa. No, they've introduced the prazeros. So in this case, they've achieved their goals. Tinoramba tichidzoka. Why? Because they've managed to grow crops which was supplementing diet in Portugal because zvinotonzi vaexporta kazvinhu zvavaitonge vachitengesa zvinhu zvazvo kunyika kwavo vaitoti vakarima votozviendesa zvotobenefita ivo. And also these prazeros have made maprazo owners to become rich as they were practicing buying and selling within the Mtapa state. Furthermore, they have access to minerals. They managed to expropriate gold. As they expropriate gold, they benefited more. Why? They were now selling that gold at the global market. And this has benefited the Portuguese at the expense of the Mtapa. Furthermore, slavery was introduced. That is the buying and selling of human beings. Their goal was achieved. Why? Because they managed to sell the active population. So if they manage to sell the active population through bribery and corruption, this has made the Mtapa economy to be weakened so that the prices could be improved since there will be no people who could fight or defend for their own territory. Nekuti mimi mukatengeserwa majaya anonzwa akabuda akaenda muchasara mune madhara haana zvaanokuita mato acho pachigore. Furthermore, they came here in Africa with the aim of hunting elephants for ivory for the global market. And as they came within the Mtapa state, they managed to have access to ivory. Vakakwanisa kuwana access immediately. Furthermore, socially, they wanted to, according to their aims, they wanted to introduce Christianity. And by the end of 1693, Christianity has been introduced. And it is even have been said that anonzi gatsirusere vana gatsirusere vese nanawenaisraeri vanga vakatobvuma Christianity kuti iitwe, and there was the white operator. Furthermore, they wanted to civilize Africans, and they've managed to teach Africans how to read and to write, and vaka-achieve goal ravo. However, we cannot forget that the Portuguese, to some extent, they failed to achieve their goals. For example, politically, they wanted to have full control of the state, but they failed to do that. And tinozoona sei kwaitova namaking avaitry kushandisa achiita. Furthermore, they faced the resistance of Mukombwe. When Mukombwe rose to power, he drove them away from Java state. And above all, economically, they failed to get full ownership of land. Why? Because there were several Africans that were practicing their own agriculture alongside with the Portuguese agriculture. Saka vakatadza kuelimina. Also, vaida kuwana full access to minerals nemamines, but they failed because part-time yoyo, we have no any document to prove that only the Portuguese were mining minerals. They have access, but not 100% accessibility. Africans, they were also mining minerals. And also, they were also even controlled by the taboos of the natural environment. And vaitomatedzera. Saka kutotedzera kutora kuti muri kutotedzera African culture. The fact yekuti they were following African culture iri kutotibuditsira kuti vakatadza kuisa magoals avo because ivo vaida kuisa their European culture at the expense of African culture, saka vakapera. Furthermore, socially they failed to eliminate indigenous religion. Indigenous religion was existing side to side with the Christianity. Andika saka hatina kumbozonzwa kuti indigenous religion yakamira nekuti maPortuguese auya neChristianity, but ivo their main aim was to eliminate indigenous religion. Furthermore, witchcraft yaingovako, polygamy yakaramba ichipracticewa yetivo in their preaching vaiti munhu ngaite mukadzi one, andika but zvakaramba zvichingopracticewa, saka zvoratidza kuti vakaita sei, they failed. Ndomanyuero acho. Saka in history there are certain question anongoda your reasoning capacity, asingatombode kuti uve munhu afungisisa kuti ndoda kuzoverenga bereki, no, panoda munhu anofunga. Ndosaka maiona kuti kuform one maiudzwa kunzi history improved our thinking capacity. Andikona ndozvaitaurwa zvacho. Saka kana mune